The perception of open world games over the years has changed drastically. At a conceptual level, the idea of an open world game is based on the premise of freedom, player choice and discovery being the most important aspects of it. With that, also a sense of escapism, provided by immersive game mechanics. In reality, the open world formula, created in the likes of Ubisoft's gaming labs, has been filtered down to the point where exploration, discovery, is almost impossible to miss. Their game worlds are carefully labelled with every small to large open world activity, as you, the player, are forcefully guided to each location with an obstructive gaming HUD and a gameplay loop that demands your involvement in certain activities. For casuals and completionists with limited time, this degree of deliberate hand-holding isn't a bad thing. But this system has been too frequently perpetuated to the point where open world games have this sort of arduous stigma attached to them now. Then in walks Ghost of Tsushima with all the swagger of a game that knows it's going to give you a real good time. Ghost of Tsushima's world isn't by any means revolutionary. It has a lot of the same Ubisoft style, for lack of a better term, open world activities and mechanics that many find off-putting. But the way it presents them, the freedom given to the player, and the minimalistic HUD all go a long way into creating an immersive open world that holds substance beyond its beautifully picturesque graphics. And today, on The Gaming Conversation, we are going to take a deep, spoiler-free, in terms of story look, at how Sucker Punch has managed to create a fantastically enjoyable open world experience. After completing the initial linear, introductory portion of the game, I found myself in a beautiful forest, with an occupied dojo up ahead of me, a number of different narrative paths to take, and ultimately, the freedom to choose where to go next. This seemed like a very clear message from Sucker Punch, to go explore the world they had created, and so I did. My initial choice led me into the aforementioned occupied dojo. Without the ability to assassinate, I found myself ultimately surrounded by a lot of enemies, soldiers and even bears. Suffice to say, the dojo stayed occupied, but ultimately the important thing here is I had the choice. The fact the first thing I did was try and do something I've essentially done over the years, numerous times in open world games, that being liberating an enemy stronghold, was as a result of the world. I had just seen the threat of the Mongols, so it made sense to try and reclaim a small victory after what had been a massive defeat. It felt like the kind of move that would make sense and be reflective of the character that I had been presented with thus far. Point being, I wasn't huddled over to the stronghold by an overeager NPC, or number gated by much higher level enemies. I just wasn't very good at the game yet. This then encouraged me to go and take on one of the story missions that would enable me to be able to assassinate targets, and therefore increase my chances of actually liberating the dojo. What I am describing here is my own choices, rationale for my exploration of the world, which is exactly what open world games should encourage from its players, in my opinion. The fact is, someone else may have elected to ignore the dojo, not even spotted it yet, which shows that this world wants you, the player, to discover it. In the same sense, Ghost of Tsushima doubles down on exploration by making it as immersive as possible. This game doesn't have a typical waypoint. Instead, the wind acts as your guide around the world of Tsushima, which conceptually is pretty cool. In practice, it takes getting used to, but what I found was often the wind was more of a backup tool for exploration, rather than a requirement. I found myself using visual cues, looking for points of interest, whether that be distant houses, animals, and even wandering bandits, for example, rather than just following a waypoint, like we do in so many games. As a result of this system, I found myself more than ever taking moments to appreciate each and every part of the world's design, truly exploring the game world based on curiosity, rather than just moving from checkpoint to checkpoint, which is a habit I had developed with open world games. Moreover, the mechanics that can streamline exploration, such as unlockables that will, I guess, increase your guiding wind's effectiveness, are again just add-ons tied to their own separate system. They are not necessary to have, nor do they gatekeep other unlockables, and so once again, the player has the freedom of choice. One little thing that I really appreciate that Ghost of Tsushima does is adding in townsfolk who you can hold optional conversations with. Conversations that reveal certain mechanics, such as following a fox and what that might lead to. Again, rather than having a tip pop up on screen when seeing a fox and the game spelling out for you exactly what this does, the game leaves you, as the player, with the choice to explore that aspect of the game if you want, if you're curious enough to find out what the fox might lead you to. And in the same sense, if you're stuck, you still do have the option to speak to people in towns who will give you the information on that gameplay mechanic. In the grand scheme, it seems like a minor feature, but again, it adds to this sense of immersion and exploration. Mechanics so seamlessly interwoven within the open world. Everything in Ghost of Tsushima feels authentic, contingent to the island of Tsushima. Collectables and map markers from a gameplay point of view are not dramatically better at a fundamental level than most other open world games. But the reason they feel so fresh in Tsushima is because A, the collectables contribute to the lore of the world. Trips to the spa allow you to recount events in Jin's life, for example, adding a further introspective look into his character. And point B, they are not so obviously littered across the map from the onset. It is on you for the most part to discover them, which adds a seldom found sense of reward for open world exploration. In an age of open worlds, where you as the player are often carefully guided by the tourist service of Ubisoft style games, Sucker Punch treats you as a native. They entrust you with exploring the island of Tsushima at your own leisure. Story getting too heavy? Why not go bathe at a spring or build a haiku? Ghost of Tsushima doesn't revolutionise the open world formula. In many ways it takes inspiration from many other open world games, but it also recognises that its world is one of beauty and discovery, and the player should have the autonomy to explore the golden forests, swim across the shores of the beaches and showdown with every random Mongol schmuck without having a to-do list to constantly work through and be reminded of. I have had a fantastic time so far exploring the island of Tsushima, cosplaying as a wandering samurai, and as I write this, all I can think about is picking up the controller and escaping to this beautiful, war-torn island. Thank you all once again for tuning into this week's edition of The Gaming Conversation. If you're new here and are interested in weekly gaming critiques every Saturday, 10 AM, discussions and also general opinion pieces, maybe consider subscribing. And if you enjoyed the video, it doesn't hurt to give it a thumbs up. Let's continue the conversation down below in the comments with the question, what is your favourite part about Ghost of Tsushima? No story spoilers please. I have been Michael JH, and so immersed in the world of Tsushima that I may have developed a 13th century samurai alter ego. Thank you for watching.